It's simple. That's a knife. Welcome to the cheesecake portion of today's show. My name's Jim Pettinger. I've been known as Biker Jims for the last 20 years. Cheesecakes are simple. I'm going to show you how to make this thing. It is indeed unctuous, as we'll talk about later, and freaking delicious. So, top hat and tails cheesecake. I said, on this cheesecake, you can feed 16 people, or you can make 12 people just a little bit sick. What I've got here is 24 ounces of room temperature cream cheese, half a cup of sugar. I used to have one of those cool shields that you could just dump from here and it'd all form in. I don't know what happened to that. By the way, this is my $200,000 KitchenAid stand mixer. I opened and closed a restaurant in 6 months. And if you want to learn how to really use up a whole lot of money in a fast time, yeah, open and close a restaurant real fast. This cool coffee mug, $25,000. I don't know, something like that. You know. So the reason you want to use room temperature cream cheese is so that it will blend together nicely and mix quickly. Scrape the bowl down a little bit. You can see it's pretty smooth. Half teaspoon of salt. You have a taste of salt. Seasoning with salt is, it's not like I'm looking to make something salty, but what I'm looking to do is to get rid of that thin, tinny flavor that a lot of foods will have if you don't put any seasoning in it, even a cheesecake, for God's sakes. All right, so this is pretty smooth. I'm going to start adding eggs. I've got 5 eggs. I'm actually going to use 4 whole eggs and 1 yolk. Crack your eggs into a bowl before you pitch them on in there because, you crack an egg in there and you drop a shell in there and you're not super fast with turning this thing off, you're going to get shells all through it, and you just blew a whole bunch of cheesecake right there. Pitch one in there, blend it up a little bit. Looking to get a smooth textured cheesecake here. I have started a new company. It's called Bikers and Bakers. It gives me an opportunity to do a little bit more than what I've been doing, or at least, it's ambiguous enough or unambiguous enough to where I can get away with making cheesecakes and honking them on the menu without people, going, I thought this was hot dogs. Yeah, and cheesecakes. We will let that cool off a little bit. Last egg. I just need the yolk this time. Next thing we're going to do is melt some white chocolate chips. Not many brands that actually use cocoa butter and white chocolate, but if you look around, you can find them. I think that's way superior to just straight up palm kernel oil and milk powder, which is what a lot of these things turn out to be. White chocolate's weird. I don't know that I would never sit down and eat a bar of white chocolate, but mixing it in certain things can add, might I say unctuous once more, but it does add a luscious texture and flavor, especially with cream cheese. It pairs really well, and chocolate. Just watch. This is about 8 ounces of white chocolate. Pitch it on into the microwave, hit it on high for 20 seconds. And what you're going to do is you're going to heat it for 20 seconds, stir a little bit, heat it for 20 seconds, stir a little bit. Just what we're looking for. I'm going to let it cool for just a second. Some things you want to mix hot and cold together. Doesn't that look just beautiful? I'm going to pitch this on in here. The cheesecake, is kind of delicious, and I love a New York style cheesecake, but I really like to mess with them and add flavors that you don't really think about in cheesecakes. Some of the varieties we do are like a limoncello sour orange cheesecake, which is just freaking fantastic. Chambord cherry cheesecakes. I've made savory cheesecakes before, like smoked salmon, blue cheese cheesecakes. On some hands, I'm like very much a traditionalist because I love sweet cheesecakes and savory cheesecakes. Might as well make a freaking quiche in that regard, or which, as real men don't really eat quiche, a cheese and egg pie, I think. Let this whoop around for a minute. Remember that vanilla? Now's a good time to pour in the vanilla. Just kind of stir that in a little bit. And that's going to do whatever magic vanilla does in things. Clean off the batter or the mixing thin by spinning it very quickly. So the brownie bottom's cooled enough to pour in the batter. So you see the batter, you know, it's not super thin, it's not super thick, it's super perfect. All right, so you got the batter in the pan, sitting on top of the brownie bottom. I took the disc out of the freezer, and you want it to be frozen enough to where you can just kind of peel it off the parchment paper, something like that. And then it's going to fit right inside, just kind of lightly rested on top. You don't want it to sink in. It's going to sink in a little bit, but it's also going to rise up. And then we just pitch this guy in the oven just like this. Set the time for 20 minutes at 350 degrees. Different cheesecakes have different textures and they are baked differently. This cheesecake here, it's fairly thick batter. So, I'm going to bake it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. That'll set the cheesecake, and then I'm going to turn the temp down to 220 and bake for another 80, 90 minutes just until it sets. And then I'll pull it out and let it cool on a rack. A New York style cheesecake, they bake the whole thing at about 350 degrees. It bakes a lot faster than mine do, but you get kind of the drier outside edges, which are great, and then it gets creamier as it goes into the inside. Mine tend to have a texture that's pretty creamy but set all the way through. I seldom use a water bath when I make a cheesecake because I found that my technique works really well to get the texture that I'm looking for. But experiment, have fun. We're cooking something. Baking's kind of a science, but we're still in the Yahoo, we're making stuff phase, so feel free to experiment. This is why we lined the cheesecake with the parchment paper. So it's been baked, it's been cooled, and we're going to just open the thing up. It'll come off like that. It's all pretty clean in there. If I had not have used the parchment paper, it could very easily be sticking to that. So then you just basically unwrap it, and you get a lovely cheesecake that looks about like that. Next, I'll show you how to slice this thing. First, in order to keep my cutting board from moving around, a lot of people just use a wet paper towel. I happen to have a little bit of shelf liner that I like to throw my cutting board on. So now it won't move around on me. Now, in the words of the late, great Paul Hogan, that's a knife. This is a 14-inch chef's knife. It's not too sharp, but, it will cause scars very similar to this. If you're not careful. And so since then, I become quite careful. I used to wear a chainmail glove for a while after I did hack my hand up really well once. First off, I'm going to slice this into 16 pieces. Try and go as much down the center as you can the first time. This is what I do. I recommend it if you want a clean looking cheesecake. I'm going to rinse off the knife after each cut. What I like to do with my cheesecakes before I slice them is I will freeze these things a little bit. I found it just makes it much easier to do really clean slices. This cheesecake, the texture on it is freaking perfect. This is an impressive cheesecake. You want it to be as pretty as it possibly can. 16 slices. Here you go. This is what a cheesecake looks like, sliced into 16 pieces. Having a big spat can come in handy. This one's kind of perfect for doing cheesecakes, as I can get the whole thing on there. Transfer this onto a little cake disc. Then I can move the whole thing around much easier on the disc. So this is 16 slices out of one cheesecake. I said, on this cheesecake, you can feed 16 people, or you can make 12 people just a little bit sick. Let's see what a slice of this comes out looking like. As you can see, it's got the brownie top, brownie bottom, the unctuous white chocolate cream cheese on the inside. Cheesecake completed. I love making cheesecakes. They take a little bit of time, but man, are they good. They're elegant. They're not hard. Go out of your way sometime. Buy a spring form pan. Get some eggs, get some cream cheese. Put something together that your friends and your family are just going to go, wow, you made this? It's not hard. Impress them. You can do it. This is cooled enough. I mean, it's not, still a little hot. Fully 65% of all my possessions are in this area right here. Is still in frame enough? And I can just shut up and this can be a quick